Joining us now to analyze today's headlines is Cristina Mislan. She is an assistant professor of journalism studies at the Missouri School of Journalism. Hi, Cristina.
Hello, Sonali.
Well, tensions are high in Paris as two standoffs between armed men and police are in progress. One is taking place just outside Paris and involves two brothers suspected of killing 12 people at the offices of the French magazine Charlie Hebdo on Wednesday morning. So far, no deaths have been reported, and it is not confirmed if the men are holding hostages. A second standoff, which may or may not be related to the Charlie Hebdo attack, is unfolding at a kosher grocery store in Paris, where a man named Ahmadi Koulibaly, suspected to have killed a police officer yesterday, is now apparently holding 5 people hostage and may have killed 2. French police have said that all 3 men are friends. Paris remains in crisis mode as police urge parts of the city to remain on lockdown. Meanwhile, the Saudi Arabian government today came under fire internationally for sentencing a human rights activist named Raif Badawi to 1,000 lashes for the crime of, quote, insulting Islam. France has close ties to Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi prince visited President Francois Hollande late last year to cement an arms deal. Well, how do you view what is unfolding in France, Cristina? Is it part of a broader global crisis?
Well, I think there might be a couple of issues here that we need to address. I think that the incident in Paris and in Saudi Arabia, but also even in incidents like with what's going on with Sony in North Korea, there's an interesting global conversation on the influence that media may or may not have on inciting violence. But I hate for this to turn into some sort of global a conversation about the global crisis of like Islamic extremism, excuse me, or something like that.
A
I think
clash of
that
civilizations narrative, if you will?
exactly. I think what we really need to start looking at is not only the influence that media may have, but also governmental interests, right? And so the relationship here between France and Saudi Arabia is interesting to me. It seems like a contradiction, but then again, we have to understand that countries act according to their interests and not necessarily their principles.
Right. The Washington Post is reporting that the Nigerian militant group Boko Haram, quote, may have just killed 2,000 people. As part of its newly announced aspiration to create an Islamic caliphate, Boko Haram attacked the town of Baga in the northeastern state of Borno some days ago. The town had been under the protection of a number of African military forces. When the attack came from multiple sides, the soldiers apparently abandoned the town, leaving its residents to fend for themselves. At first it was thought hundreds of people were killed, but now media are reporting that as many as 2,000 may have been massacred. Boko Haram is considered even more brutal than the Islamic State militant group in Syria and northern Iraq. Neighboring Cameroon has appealed to the international community for help in stopping Boko Haram as it threatens to expand its operations across the border. Christina, are you surprised at how little attention this story is getting?
Well, I think anyone who studies media understands that events get attention when there are interests at stake. And often media reflect their nation's larger political stances, especially international policies. And so we shouldn't be surprised that the story isn't getting attention. Now, if economic interests at some point become part of the story or something having to do with international politics and foreign policy, then maybe it will get more attention. But right now, African nations and thousands of people dying on the continent isn't important to some people.
And finally, a new video related to the Ohio police killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice has been released. Cleveland city authorities have been pressured into making public the video of police actions in the minutes after Rice was gunned down by Officer Timothy Lohman. Rice's 14-year-old sister is seen in the video being tackled by police officers and pushed to the ground as she runs towards her fallen brother. The officers are seen handcuffing her and putting her into the back of their car. No one is seen attempting to offer the boy any medical help for many minutes until an FBI agent who happened to be in the area administered CPR. Rice died in the hospital the next day. The Rice family attorney Walter Madison called the treatment of Tamir's sister, quote, the cruelest thing I've ever seen on video. Christina, what does this video reveal to you about how police treat African Americans? I mean, these are 2 children that we're talking about here.
Right. Well, Sonali, it's absolutely horrendous. I think this video tells us the same story that all the other videos and accounts of police brutality tell us, that in this country, Black lives really don't matter, and that cops can basically continue to justify the murder of Black men, regardless of age. We're talking both young Black men, older Black men. The age really does not matter at this point. Um, but I think it's crucial, and this is really important, that the year 2015 that we continue to have this national conversation, and also to push the local and state and federal government to actually start taking a hard stance against police brutality, and we shouldn't accept any less.
Well, Cristina, I want to thank you as always for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Cristina Mislan is our daily newsflash guest expert on Fridays. She is an assistant professor of journalism studies at the Missouri School of Journalism. When we come back, we'll take a look at week one of the Republican Party in the majority in both houses of Congress. They've been up to a lot. My guest, David Dayan, will break it down. Stay tuned.